Hi, and good evening, everyone. My name is Albert, and this is Vlogs About Nothing. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your very busy night to join me. I do really appreciate it. It's yours truly here, looking about as tired as half the cast of the awful show called, like, The Walking Dead, which, if you haven't watched the show recently, which I don't know why you wouldn't have, because, like, this is Vlogs About Nothing. I'm your boy, but I'm just saying that the first season, at least, is absolutely terrible, and it's an extremely grotesque adaptation of what otherwise is just some simple, good old unaliving zombies. You feel me? They turn the art of unaliving zombies into like this extremely morbid, almost like just it's sickening. It's sickening. Are you one of the sick people out there that enjoys the kind of content that the people over at AMC decided to produce during the first season of Walking Dead? Because I guess there were enough people, right? The show has like a million spin-offs, and I'm here talking about it so much as I hate it, and so I guess there's no such thing as bad publicity, I suppose, in and of itself. And so tonight I want to talk about something, far removed from that. And in fact, it's an underlying epidemic that I really feel like has gone under the radar for far too long. I come from a working class family myself in that nuclear dynamic. My mother and father are still together, tight knit, in that we began to become victims of the housing crisis, far before everyone else sort of reached that bubble. Remember, it took time for that bubble to be created, for it to have been totally crashed in 2008. But there were people feeling the pressure far before that. We're talking right around 1999 to about 2006 before it then became a global problem in around 2007, 2008. You feel me? And so in that time, I grew up in a home. I had the luxury of growing up in a single story, 3 bedroom house, right? That's where I spent the majority of my adolescence, so far as that I grew up more than 10 years of my 18 years in like a brick and mortar, just normal living. That's what I thought it was. My grandfather purchased my parents' first home for them, outright, and then my parents ended up losing that home. And so I bring all of these things up because my own experiences in life have led me to understand that being homeless in and of itself is something that people have been experiencing for going on well over a decade, in terms of just not being able to find steady housing, because of the lack of employment opportunities to support, the idea of just paying housing you like cost to begin with. Now, this is the unfortunate truth of so many people out there, and it's just starting to trend. Link in the description below to a video that talks about the more kinds of different sides, in her opinion, of how the content creator of how I listen to the audio. But again, it's just sort of like, I don't understand. It's been a problem. Your local Motel 6 isn't filled with traveling tourists for the weekend. I mean, unfortunately, it's filled with locals who have had to resort to living in hotels because even though they're more expensive than what a normal person could get financed at 4 or 5% on a 30-year note, at $1 million mortgage with good income and so forth. Again, like, overall, it's cheaper to be a millionaire, than it is to live day to day, in that you have to always come up with a certain amount of rent at the end of the week in these long-term stay hotels and or motels. And quite often, if you do the math and that you multiply that number by 4, you get something that's crazy. We're talking thousands of dollars, and that's just to stay in a hotel, right? Like, that's not on a vacation either. That's just where somebody is living. And I'm laughing because as a young man, I have I have lived in a hotel before. Not in Albuquerque, but and at some point, right? At some point, it started out as sort of just like not a vacation, but I was kind of just I was there for work. I was staying in a hotel, and then I wanted to stay there longer, but I couldn't find like a good priced Airbnb. I don't like paying the costs. So I was like, okay, I'll just look for an extended stay hotel, right? Because in theory, these things exist. And then next thing you know, I'm stuck in the trap of, working there now at this point, not just vacationing there, but also being responsible for having to pay sometimes $200 or more a night just to have a room. And again, like, homeless in that, if I'm working there full time and stuff and I don't have a steady place to like call home, other than the Motel 6 that's charging me $200 a night to be a few miles away from a major metropolis downtown and so forth, all while, again, I'm earning enough to pay for it, but like just barely. I mean, we're talking like just barely enough for the room, and anything else other than that was like a luxury, like those little things called food and recreation. And it's just sort of like, wow, things are a little bit different when you're in the struggle. And quite often you live in and out of hotels and or motels so long that, again, even rich people are homeless at some point. Again, I know it's completely different, and I'm not trying to compare the two in an actual way. Remember, these are improv speeches, and I'm just some random dude who's in character and who has had this show now for over a year. There's over 1,000 videos just below you. And so, by far the most accomplished thing I've ever done in my life. Don't let me fool you. I am a complete loser. But, what's not being a loser is just being an advocate for being aware that these situations exist and are plentiful in what otherwise and should otherwise be places where people can go for $20 to $30 a night just to get out of the house and not to make it their house. Again, there's so many different like boomer and extra stories of how people would rent, just a motel room or a hotel room for the night just so they could use the pool and stuff. They live a couple miles from the place, but they don't got a pool. That's a pretty good reason to want to like get out into the world and in your local community and so forth. But like when you're paying 10 times that amount so that you can just have a place to like shelter yourself, then it's a little bit different, just. And so all that I'm saying is there are different kinds of homelessness, and not just the people out on the street, but how about the people that live in their cars? Again, like, it's just because people don't talk about living in their cars doesn't mean that you may or may not know somebody that is literally living out of their car right now. And again, it can be done. Obviously, it can be done. Functional homelessness can obviously, it can still be done. You can live out of your car. It's not the best way to live, though. You can live in and out of hotels and or motels, but there aren't the kind of hotels or motels that what are often attributed to like as being in the hospitality realm, right? They're catered more towards local residents who pay exorbitant amounts of money so that they can short-term stay there without any sort of protection whatsoever if they're not able to pay the room there one night or whatever. And again, this is something that not has just started recently, but has been happening now for, I'd say, well, going on 3 decades. And, yeah, it's a problem. It's a problem, but we shouldn't hate on people for making content from within the confines of their living quarters, which unfortunately happens to be the Motel 6 room, which they share with their 7 kids. I know a lot of haters out there would like to, quickly point fingers and try to call different entities and do different stuff or whatever because, I mean, again, yeah, we all agree. The ideal situation is for a family of 7 to not all live in a 10 by 25 room that is rented out at $200 a night, right? Ideally, we don't want, and I'm sure that the parents of these kids don't want to do that either. But unfortunately, they can't have the opportunity to even rent a place because rent is very expensive. They don't have the work experience to secure any sort of low interest kind of loan so that they could have an opportunity to get a down payment so that they can wait until they're getting a steady paycheck. I mean, it's just like a crab in a bucket type effect. It's like it's all around, you feel me? And I'm just saying that like 3 decades of this, like on some compound human interest. The bill is heavy, my friends, my guys, my girls, they, them. Like, it's real heavy right now. It's accumulated a lot of interest, and it's not a good thing because, again, moreover, unemployment is only reported as in people that have actively been searching for a job for like 3 months or whatever, and it doesn't include the people that have completely stopped looking for work because they've been unemployed so long that they're not even a part of the metrics anymore. Again, I'm not just making this stuff up. And the world, I'd say right now, at least in this country, from the way that the economy appears to be, is suffering some of these long-term effects of the consequences of our actions that we let happen, like with the whole deregulation of our entire economy in the 80s, not just thanks to Ronald Reagan, but also Margaret Thatcher and every other European central leader that really thought that the best thing was to just deregulate everything, right? But obviously, your political beliefs don't matter. They really don't in a world that those real life economic policies are now really costing a lot of money. And while at the time the 90s were a boom era, under both Democrats and Republicans, it was a good time to be alive. Interest rates were low, spending was high, investment yielded high returns. I mean, we got people like Mark Cuban thanks to all of those different things. Your Bill Gates ended up being, the guy. You feel me? Jeff Bezos wouldn't have been able to start selling textbooks or books out of the comfort of his garage. I mean, it's like a lot of things happened. And so homelessness is a problem. How we ended up on that, different sort of area is just, again, these are improv talks and I'm giving it my all, but I'm just saying that homelessness is in different ways and it's not just the people you see. How many grown adults are codependent on another grown adult, and if it weren't for that grown adult, they wouldn't have a place to live. Like, for real. Like, ask your, like, a lot. Many, 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 many. And this isn't voluntarily, like, information that one shares, So I'm just saying that, like, homelessness impacts all of us. It drives up the prices of local hotel rooms. It decreases the incentive for those local hotel rooms and establishments to invest in their properties, to incentivize people to come and stay because they're good at their business and, they don't mind charging the homeless population $100 or so, and rents are like not, there's a lot of vacancy, but the moment something actually does come into town and rooms go to like several $100s a month, like, or a night or whatever, those people can't afford to live anywhere anymore, so they resort to living in either their car or literally like out on the streets. And again, those kinds of behaviors overall aren't good for the community. And so for the community, we need to make an investment so that, like, all of us are just as equally as safe as everyone when we do decide to, like, be out in the world and perform recreation and have fun and gather and meet and peacefully protest things that we may or may not agree with or that we disagree with, and publicly support and lobby for things that we do agree with, all these different things. So I'm just saying that, like, homelessness is not just the people that you see out on the street. And I fear that there are way more homeless people in this country than we all would even just dare possibly want to concern ourselves with knowing, just because the number is probably so high. And in all likelihood, again, like, I think if that were just proven, it would just make things, like, it would just seal the deal. Because again, I think we already know these things. That's all that I'm saying. And I hope that you guys consider those things when you talk and or discuss homeless people, and kind of understand seriously from a mathematical point of view how inherently more expensive it is to be poor, regardless of your political beliefs, than it is to have resources and to get things for cheap and to be have a stable home. Things like these things you can't have unless you're really wealthy in today's world, which again 80% of all people just aren't. And so that's all that I'm saying. Out of character. Hey, listen, I gotta finish this video here real quickly because my phone's about to die. I hope that you guys have a really awesome night. Thank you for watching my show. Seriously, I really do appreciate it. Y'all are really awesome. I make this show so that we can all sort of learn a little bit of things, learn a few things, and take some stuff with us, at least, for either, like, working and functioning debate, as it concerns different viewpoints, and maybe you get to come to a mutual understanding of things that you can understand to agree to disagree with and so forth, but like it all starts there, just by talking about things. And that's what we do here, that's what I do here, my camera and I. So it's just something that's fun, and I really enjoy that y'all are a part of it. So thank you again, sincerely. I really do appreciate it. I hope that you guys have an awesome night. Everything's going all right, on quick little personal sidebar. Still dealing with some things, you feel me? But like it's just something that's tough for sure. But there will hopefully be more progress, so far as it concerns some of those things that are happening. And I hope that you guys have a really good night. Okay, seriously, take care of yourselves, and I'll see y'all tomorrow. All right, bye.